healthier myself. I got more effective at work.
Definitely.
And it was all connected. And I think like for us, for our apartments, we sell apartments. That's the service we offer. But I think our clients are buying something different. They're buying the independence because they can come and go.
Yeah.
Like I remember my grandmother, when she lived in her house, she wouldn't want to leave in the winter because she had 8 steps going up to the back door.
Right.
And she was so frightened about falling down those steps.
Yeah.
And so she would almost become like a hermit for 3 months every year. So our stuff's all one level. So our tenants are buying the independence. Our tenants' kids are also buying their independence because sometimes their parents may have to live with their kids if they don't have somewhere else secure to go.
Or the large chunk of time is helping out, and,
And so, or even like if somebody's not quite at that point, but it's just taking them longer to look after their lawns and snows, we're selling them that time back that they can spend with their grandkids. They can spend knitting. They can spend at the Tantramar Seniors College. And so I think one of the things that back to the business community is really everybody getting back and identifying, okay, no, what they sell.
What am I selling?
What am I selling?
That's a really good way to look at that.
It's kind of what am I selling and what are my customers buying?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the way to promote it, because if you're selling nutrition advice, you can go, well, it's not worth that much. But if I'm buying the ability to play and run and chase after my daughter, who's only going to be 4 for a certain period of time, that's worth so much more to me than you may think your time's worth.
Yeah, I like that reframing. And I just back to Christy for a second. That is a lot of what she is doing on her This Is Me group, which is really good. She does a lot of really beautiful stuff around just like the reasons behind why you care about that stuff. Yeah. And but no, I think that's right. I think because I tend to think of like, well, what economically can this town support, and what do people consider feasible for their economic situation? But that really narrows the scope, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than thinking about like, okay, so what does this community want? And take the money piece out of it when you're thinking about the planning, and what do we as businesses have to offer? And what do people really get from us?
Yeah. And
that's a really good way to look at that.
It's much what's in it for them.
Yeah.
Why would they want this? And
what's the value in it to them? What's going to make them feel good about accessing those services or consuming that product?
What's the emotional value?
Yeah.
What's the emotion? What emotion are you connecting into it? I think so much for businesses, we sell services, we sell products, but customers buy the emotions. Yeah. And they buy, like I think, and everybody would react to something different. Like I think for yourself, for selling social media, for me, it's me buying time.
Yes. And that is the whole reason this started, is because people didn't have time to do all that. And it's funny because it's all morphing now into how we provide the service, but that's a topic for another time.
But that gets back to my previous point that I made from the beginning. You started and you didn't have the perfect plan and say that, well, I mean, you started and then the plan presented itself.
Yep.
And people came and said, well, could you do this for me? I'm guessing. I mean,
that's 100% how it goes. Yeah. And like you say, it's a matter of like, okay, so I have a problem to solve, and now something else has presented me with a problem. And whether it's a problem or an opportunity, okay, so this opportunity is here. I don't know how I'm going to do it. So let's figure that out. Anyways. Let's solve that problem. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Can you do this for me? Sure. I don't know how yet.
Yeah, I have no clue, but I know I can do it.
It's kind of, and I think that's something else that's important to talk about, is people from the outside look at perhaps somebody who's been successful and think it was a very logical, linear.
Yeah, no.
No, not
or
at
like,
all.
Or like maybe they had lots of education behind it, or maybe they, put together doubts. Like no doubts or lots of support or lots of money or like a really well laid out business plan. I had an NSCC student approach me by phone or email not too long ago, and she wanted to talk to me. It was for a school assignment.
Yeah.
And they had to talk with business people in the community about their business plan and how they started. And I was like, oh dear, I don't know if you want to talk to me, because I'm not a good example, because I didn't have one. I didn't have one. And I only came up with one when I needed to get some help from like financial help from CBDC, and thank goodness that I needed that help, because it's really good to have a plan. It's good to have had to make one. But even then it's still evolving all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've tried so many different things, like, and gone, oh, nope,
yeah. Oh,
not that,
that's not right.
That.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece, like I'd started to think sort of, okay, what was some of the things that sort of led to the success we've had so far? And it's starting out, it was the ability for me to keep going even in the face of doubt.
And that is huge. That is so important because, or even in the face of, oh, shoot, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
And that cost me some money and it cost me some time. And now I have to backtrack a little bit and shift gears.
But I think the key with that example that you had right there is it's not a mistake until you stop.
Exactly.
Then it's a
totally.
mistake.
It's not a mistake until you say no.
Yeah. And
I will probably say this on every episode of the show, and I say it probably to somebody every day. Tina Fey, her quote, and it all had to do with improv when she was on Saturday Night Live. And if you've ever done any like dramatic theatrical improv, you're going back and forth, you're having a conversation, even just like us right now. This is an improvised conversation. Yeah. And if one of us says no and stops it there, well, there's no opportunity left. You're done. If you say yes, then who knows where you go next, but you figure it out, right? Yeah. Say yes and you'll figure it out later. Yeah. And I don't know where I started with that, but it's such a great way to look at things. Because if you do make a mistake, well, actually, was that a mistake? Yeah. Well, in this case, I would say no, because yes, there are opportunities from that.
I think that's the other thing that's interesting, like in the show that you can bring out, is that when you look at somebody who's from the outside who's had success, it's never been never been a linear.
It's not an easy. No. The path is laid out. No.
And so for me, and I think the other thing that it sort of led to success, or I think and I thought about, okay, what's one of the things that can make an entrepreneur successful? And I often think it's getting up one more time than everybody else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just. That's it. Which again is back to the stop and back to the quitting and going. And
I would personally would say something very similar, only I would change the language a little bit to be, it's the key to being successful is getting up one more time with everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think competition in a business community is super duper important. But at the same time,
you have to work with everybody else.
We don't get anywhere if we don't work with everybody else. We don't get anywhere unless everybody's successful.
Yeah,
that's how I see it.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with you on that.
I don't want to be more successful than you.
No,
we're not competitors.
We can all be successful.
Exactly. Yeah, but I guess so let's reframe it so that we're kind of meet in the middle. I guess because I don't want to disagree on it. Getting up one more time than maybe you feel like.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a book that I'd read. It was called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
The War of Art.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've read it in the last 6 months. I heard about it a lot. It was a fantastic book.
Okay.
And I thought the takeaway from it, for me, what I got out of it was basically professionals get up and do the work every day.
Yeah.
And I think that's so much of being an entrepreneur is even when you don't feel like it, you get up and you do it.
And it doesn't always look pretty.
Oh,
no. I used to think that people who were professional and successful entrepreneurs, everything needed to look professional and everything needed to look really well put together. Yeah. And maybe you didn't do the grunt work. Somebody else did that. I don't know how I thought that happened, but it really is. It's a matter of getting up and doing the work. And if that means you're the one moving the furniture, if that means you're the one hauling the stuff in your vehicle in order to then create that thing that makes it look really professional, then you're the one doing it. If you're the one mopping your floors and watering your plant, not that those are even menial tasks, but I don't know. I always used to think that people who were professional CEOs and entrepreneurs, they didn't do the work.
They started somewhere.
They had to start somewhere,
I swept so many construction sites.
I bet.
I moved so much material. I've emptied so many garbage cans and cleaned out compost bins and it's what you need to do.
You just need to do the work, I don't know if this was an actual depiction, a real photograph, but I saw one on Facebook the other day, and it was the same idea, everybody has to start somewhere. And it was supposedly the CEO of Amazon, and he was sitting in a little tiny, closet style office with stuff all over his desk, and on the wall I think was a hand painted thing that said Amazon.com, and you could tell this was in his first days of starting out, and look where they are now. Again, I don't know if that was a real picture of the situation, but it had to start somewhere in someone's head. And he had to do the grunt work.
That's exactly it. You can't skip step.
No, you might have to go you might think you can skip them, but you eventually have to go back and do them.
They come back and get you.
Yeah.
That's it. Something else I want to talk about before we forget.
Yeah.
Or before we move on to another topic. So back to the sort of the local expertise. Is I partnered up with the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
And I offered this workshop series in the fall, and we're doing it again in January.
Okay. I had to do the same thing with another workshop that I was doing. Okay.
And so
it's a 5-session workshop series.
Yes, that's a good way to describe it. That I'm leading, and it's all on productivity and thinking about how you approach work and working to improve and how you approach your work and working to get everything under control.
Okay. And so is this geared towards a particular industry, or is this any business?
Any business, anybody, any
organization.
Any organization.
Yeah.
Because I think so many people have so much going on that it's very easy to feel out of control. And so this is to help people get everything back under control, because I also think if you try to separate out family life and work life and this, it doesn't, you can't, it's all connected. And so we do 5 sessions. It starts January 30th, ends February 27th. We're going to do them Thursday mornings, 8:30 to 11:30 I believe at the Cubic. If anybody's interested, you can talk to Ron at the Chamber at the Amerston Area Chamber of Commerce.
What's this number here?
667-8186.
Excellent. That's Ron Furlong at the Amerston Area Chamber of Commerce at 667-8186. All right, perfect. Okay, I think we covered everything on our list. Check, 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 check.
I think so.
We did it.
I think so.
That's great. Thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. And I'd love to have you back sometime.
Sure, anytime.
I'd love to hear more about your workshop and how it goes. And you said you have room for 12 people for January?